Right, so this is how we're going to do analysis of covariance. Go to Analyze, General Linear Model, Univariate. All we need to do is just change the model back to the full factorial. Click Continue. Go into Options, put the means in here. Plain effects, and we'll just say LSD. And click Continue. And then click OK. Right. So this is the analysis of covariance. So this is looking at the effect of the type of training on the post-test scores, taking into account how well people did on the pre-test measure. So in other words, how good were they to start with before we started training them? So it takes that into account and then looks at what leftover effects there are of the types of training to see which had the greater impact. Okay, so here we are. This is the analysis of covariance. Then the means for the three groups. Now these are the original means: 106, 135, 159. This is Levene's test for the equality of error variances. Just checks whether the standard deviations or the variances are equivalent across the three groups. So we want this to be non-significant. It's 0.5. That's fine. It means the variances of the three groups are roughly the same. And this is the test between subject effects. This is the ANCOVA result. All we're interested in here is looking at the effect of training. So this is now the effect of training once the pre-test scores have been taken into account. So how much variance is now explained by training once we factor out how good people were to start with on analysis on the test on the pre-test measure. So we've got a significant result here, and partial eta squared, the effect size, is now 0.86. Now when we ran the one-way analysis of variance before, without having the covariate in, the partial eta squared for type of training was 0.515, so it was accounting for 52% of the variance. Now it's 86%. So in other words, once we take into account how good people were to start with, so once we take into account the pre-test score and factor that out of our analysis, we now find that actually the impact of training is much bigger than we originally would have thought had we just done a simple one-way analysis of variance. It seems to make a huge difference. So once you take into account how good people were to start with, the type of training that they then receive accounts for 86% of the variation in the post-test score.